Cyber insurance has always been a black box for most of the organizations, especially in the small and medium business sector. And in an era post-pandemic, when we have been seeing so many cyber attacks becoming very rampant in the industry, and today it is not just limited along to the enterprise sector, but the SME sector is highly affected as well. And the losses that are accumulating due to that has been tremendously high, because of which organizations have been slowly looking at this mechanism to implement cyber insurance into their strategies. And this is where we intend to create a demystification of how organizations can make the most appropriate strategy for cyber insurance for themselves. It's always been a black box. The insurance sector does not understand too much about technology. The technology sector does not understand enough about the insurance sector. And when we try to bring both these things together, the customer does not understand either of it. And ultimately, it all results in chaos. So what is the navigation that is possible to this maze of cyber insurance? How can organizations empower themselves in this cyber insurance maze is something that we are trying to do with this wonderful discussion that we are trying to host today. We are very thankful to Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce, which has taken the initiative to support us to be the partner of this particular session and trying to engage with us and bring together the entire SME folks of North America and Canada to this. In this conversation today, we are proud to have speakers from 3 different parts of the world. We have 2 speakers from Canada, 1 from US, and 1 expert from India as a part of this conversation. And of course, we have our friends from Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce, which is also helping us in taking this forward. I would like to welcome all the speakers and panelists. So let me first introduce you to Bhavik, who is the convener and director of Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce. Bhavik, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for partnering with us for the show.
Thank you, Babu.
Great. And I would now welcome to our key guests of today. So we have John Henry Sheard. He is a Defense Forces person. And from there, he has got into the area of insurance, security, and he runs Cyber Mall, which is a new initiative also, which he has brought out to bring in cyber defense very prominently amongst the SME organization. John, welcome to Fintech Frontiers and Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce session on demystifying cyber insurance.
Well, thank you very much. I'm happy and proud to be here and help you. This is the business we just started is cybermall.online. And I had spent some time trying to figure out the maze you're talking that you just referenced a little while ago. And I discovered after a while, I spent a lot of time on the internet trying to find services that I thought were important. Well, I thought to myself, time is money. And people need a library globally, online, to find services that they can, cybersecurity services they can use in their daily business. And right now, if I can just go over them very quickly, some of the services that we have on our website would include cybersecurity services, cyber education and training services, cyber for small business, cyber gaming and addiction treatment, penetration testing, pre-underwriting, assessments, quantum computing, ransomware solutions, and residential cyber. And that's what we're doing. So I would invite anybody to look at our website and find what they're looking for.
So great. Excellent. This is wonderful, John. And Mercy, again, a noted cyber insurance professional, and she is coming from US, and she is a noted cyber insurance specialist for last several years. We would love to know a little bit more about you, Mercy.
Well, I have about 40 years in the business total. And about 10 years ago, I got interested in the cyber, which, as I say, I'm not a techie. I can barely use my computer, but the cyber seemed to interest me. And I teach cyber all over North America to insurance agents. And so I speak a lot to the agents themselves, and I speak a lot to the local groups that are interested in the cyber. And I enjoy it a great deal. And I think it's a great topic, and everybody needs it. So we need to just educate everybody a little bit more about it.
Wonderful. So we would love to get enlightened with your years of experience in the cyber insurance space. Now, let me introduce you to another great innovator and a specialist in the area of cyber insurance. His name is Arjun Bhaskaran. Arjun comes from India and he has been a noted insurer for several years into cyber insurance space. He has been a researcher and he also has a very interesting fintech to his credit, which is online underwriting engine in the area of cyber insurance. Arjun, can you please share a brief intro about you?
Thank you, Babu. I have about 30 years experience in technology in the financial sector, of which last 20 years has been specifically in the insurance industry. And parallelly, I have been for 20 years as a cybersecurity professional, as an auditor, consultant, certifying body. I've been in all roles. So last 5 years, I've been working deeply in the cyber insurance industry. And as Babu said, I'm trying to solve the problem of how do you do the pricing of cyber insurance by deploying advanced quantification methods and integrating it deeply with the cyber insurance setup of any organization. The people, process, technology, how do you understand it at a very granular, dynamic level? And we are building an engine for cyber insurance underwriting. So that is my work.
Wonderful. So I think you have been doing quite a lot of inspiring work in the area of cyber insurance. Let me just go to Sreenath, who is our fourth speaker today. Sreenath has been a technologist. He is also a cyber insurance practitioner. Sreenath, can you please share us a little brief about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Babu, and thanks for giving this opportunity. So I would say that we are in the world where there's a lot of inconsistency in terms of network security controls in most of the organizations. So my job is to look at the gap analysis and provide them the best of best offering, either through a security programs, it could be a product or a services to fill the gap so that they become more resilient. So I come from the background of technology plus insurance last 15 to 18 years. So I worked as a principal consultant for one of the top brokers in US, and my predominantly focus on the bringing a couple of levers into the process to be more efficient. It could be a technology, or it could be people, and it could be a process. By having all these three aligned, we can see an efficiency, and we can build the resilience in the security perspective. Currently, I'm one of the co-founder of the company called Ensure ITS, and our primary objective is to focus on the cyber-related vulnerabilities and helping the customers in need.
Interesting. On one side, we have got cyber insurance practitioners. The other side, we have got cyber insurance technologists. And the third side, we have got cyber security professional. So this is a golden triangle that we are trying to complete in this entire conversation, and from across 3 different countries. So I hope we have a wonderful discussion here. So what has been the major vulnerabilities for the small and medium business sectors today? Okay. What are the kind of figures that have been seen in terms of attacks in the small and medium businesses? How have they been responding in your recent experiences from the industry? And I would like to invite Mr. Muralilal, who is the president of Indo-Canadian Chamber of Commerce.
Mr. Babu Nair, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone. The cyber security is now throughout the world. Every organization is having this issue, the burning issue of the world.
Thank you very much, sir. You have been a lawyer. And your contribution also into the world of cyber insurance and cyber security is equally important. So let us just have a small idea about how vulnerable is the small and medium business segment, and what is it that the organizations are today facing, especially when it comes to cyber insurance?
From my perspective, the threat that crosses my mind most often is ransomware. And we have an advertiser on our website, New Shield, that solves that problem, that counters that ransomware problem. And how they do it is very interesting. If you can imagine, you hold your hand up, and you can imagine that where you put a glass shield over your hand, and a cyber criminal would attack that shield, thinking that it's your server, but it's not. So that's what they encrypt. So with one button, you get a one-click restore. Your data is restored. and it's not encrypted anymore, and the malware's wiped off the glass plate, and it's an amazing technology which is patented. And I think that's something that small business really should take a look at to protect themselves, because I can't imagine that there's anybody, any of our viewers, or all of them, are worried about cyber attacks.
In fact, I was reading a Forbes report where cybercrime, it is reported, went up by 600% due to pandemic. And they gave 4 or 5 key areas of cyber risks that are facing business, right? Ransomware stands number 1, like you rightly said, phishing, malware attacks, social engineering, data theft, and insider theft. Mercy, from your perspective, how have you been seeing the increase in the number of SME organizations or medium businesses getting into the area of cyber insurance?
Well, the small to medium businesses obviously are being threatened a lot because of the fact they don't usually defend themselves as well. They're an easy target for most of these threat actors, especially when it comes to money in the bank. And they'll go after them for ransomware. But if they see something that's very simple, that they can get into the system and get into the banking and steal the money, that's becoming very, very prominent. And I use that a lot with my small to medium businesses. I see a lot of $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 thefts internally through the banking systems because of the threat actors. So I can see the social engineering and things going along. The ransomware is very big numbers. Ransomware is $4 and $5 million each. The little numbers, though, are starting to add up. And if you add up enough of those little numbers, they start to get importance. And that's what we're seeing a lot with the small to medium businesses.
Interesting. Now, let me go to the technologist perspective. Sreenath, you have been a technologist. How do you see the impact or the awareness about cyber insurance amongst the SME businesses?
I think we are in the place now where no business, regardless of the size, can be avoided being attacked. All businesses have data, and criminals see this as a value for them. What happens today is these attackers will sit in one of the basement and start generating the ransomware code and send it across to the network. And they focus predominantly the MSPs or resellers. As we all know, these MSPs and resellers catering to the small and large companies. So they try to fish as much as possible information from either a small, they don't care whether it's small or medium. So the small business will get caught between these activities. So people think that, hey, SME, no, we don't get attacked. We don't have much information. But no, the objective of the attackers is to just go to the white room and spray the paint, and wherever it falls in, that's where they'll try to look into it. So I'll try to get some numbers from net diligence. So we all know that net diligence is one of those claims, the study that they have done in last 5 years. Total 7,500 claims were done in last 5 years. Guess what percentage? 98% of the claims is coming from the small and medium business, which is close to $1 billion. So we keep that, hey, we always see on paper that the big names of those companies, but where is the small companies? They're getting larger hit than the one. Is definitely there is a gap in the system. As simple as email compromises. Those are the very simple gateway for the attackers. And next one would be the employees making a mistake. So apparently there's no proper awareness of what's happening. So look at this. The series of unfolding activities. We see ransomware events, we see a business email compromises, and we see some of those events, very unspecified cyber events, as well as the mistakes from the employees.
Wonderful. Now, why do SMBs need cyber insurance? So what are the key advantages for SMBs who have actually gone in for cyber insurance?
What cyber insurance can normally do is protect you specifically in 3 areas. First of all, your liability. What if some of the information you have in your system gets loose and it's my health information, and I'm liable to sue you. So we're going to protect you, first of all, for liability. The other thing we're looking at is protecting you yourself as far as your equipment. If it gets damaged, if you have downtime, let's say someone does get into your system and you have to shut your system down for 3 days and you're going to lose business. So we're going to protect that business income. And then the third section of the policy is usually the crime coverages, which is the social engineering and the invoice manipulation fraud and the banking fraud. So those are the three big areas we're going to cover under the cyber policies.
Interesting. And Arjun, from your perspective, how has things been working?
I've been working more in India and the Asia Pacific and the Middle East markets. So the experiences are the same, more or less similar. For one, SMEs. In this region, at least 25% of all SMEs have faced cyber attacks or data breaches. Like Sreenath said, it is mainly because of poor cyber hygiene. That's one aspect. But there's another one also. Their exposure to technology after the pandemic has grown up manifold. So now the gap of the type of technology being used by a large organization and a small organization the gap has been bridged. Small companies are able to use on cloud, the very complex SaaS applications, and then they're in the forefront of Fintech payments. So all this has increased their exposure, but they don't have the internal capabilities to protect adequately. Go for the business benefits, the exposure goes up also. And then the other big change is the whole software world has moved from monolithic software to APIs and microservices architecture. But because of the APIs, you don't know where the risk is coming from in your supply chain. So you can do a lot within your area, but you can still have a vulnerability through some API. So these are new challenges that have come, and this is all impacting the profile of the losses, the attacks in India and other parts of the region. So this is my experience.
Interesting. So one thing is very clear, that cyber insurance is a good thing to happen, especially to protect what you don't know that you don't know. What are those key things that can be really covered up by a cyber insurance policy?
Like Mercy mentioned, the three important ones are the first party losses, third party losses, business interruption, and then ransom payments. But beyond that, now the industry is moving towards more innovative solutions from cyber insurance. So we have seen embedded insurance happening in a big way in other lines of business, but it is slow to take off in cyber insurance. And there's a huge scope for cyber embedded insurance. It can be done in two ways. One, under a cyber insurance contract for a SME, lot of small basic solutions like the one John mentioned. There is a anti-ransomware protection or a data loss protection. These all can be bundled into a cyber insurance contract and given to an SME. Okay. The second one is, I have seen this with another Israeli company who has done wonderful work in the Canadian market. The second one is you provide pre-breach services. I give an example. Zurich gave pre-breach services from Accenture. So the beneficiary organization gets the benefit of pre-breach services from Accenture, which is win-win for everybody. It reduces the risk for the customer, it reduces the risk for the insurer also, so the premiums also can be lower. So cyber embedded insurance is one important innovation that we all need to work together.
Interesting. And Mercy, from your perspective, what is it?
The embedded insurance, and he's talking about the prevention from Accenture, that they are doing the pre-breach. Also, the breach response. The breach response from the insurance companies is terribly important. When you get your policy, you're going to usually get a 1-800 number. And they're going to tell you, if you have anything that you think is a breach, anything at all, please dial the 1-800 number and talk to somebody and have a conversation. Even if you're not sure what it is, it doesn't cost anything. It's free to you. Call them and ask them the questions in case you just aren't sure if it's been a breach. Don't call me, the insurance agent. I don't know. I tell people, don't call the agent. The agent knows nothing. We just sell the policies. Call the breach response team and they'll be able to help you. And Arjun's right. This is now getting to be bundled more and more together, and it's good. It's good that it's being bundled. We need people like Sree and Arjun telling the insurance industry how to put this all together. And we just haven't had that cyber's only been around for 20 years. In the insurance business, that's not very long. So we're just learning and starting to build things right now. And with the prevention that we can do with the types of software like John has, we can really shore things up and make it a lot cheaper and better for small businesses.
From technology perspective, what is the thing that you see as a possibility that insurance can solve?
So before getting into technology, there are certain things that every industry or organization should practice before having the insurance policy in place. Even the insurers, as Mercy was saying, that insurance carriers are learning, the brokers are understanding. So it's a journey by itself, because we all know it's quite dynamic in nature. So it is not everything has to be defined, but we define as we go. What I would recommend for the organization, conduct a tabletop exercise. Basically, you need to put things in your memory, something like creating a hypothetical situation in your organization. For example, what if an attack happens? Whom should we contact? Best example is they usually pick up the call to the broker and say, hey, I've got an attack. Now, again, the broker says, sorry, I'm not well trained. So basically here, the company should have an ability to see, okay, if there is an attack happen, whom should we call? What should I do? What are the resources that is available with me? Do you have enough tools and techniques which can able to encrypt and decrypt my network? These are the few things that has to be in place before we reach out help from outside. So even the insurance companies likes this approach, because the clients are being proactive enough to ensure that they prevent this kind of attacks, imminent attacks. So there might be an opportunity that some of the carriers will provide some discounts on the premium, because the client is giving this kind of information to the carrier, saying that, hey, I do have a standard operating procedure and a framework, and it tells me this is how I need to do in case of an attack, and I also get covered. So this is a very welcome for even for the insurance and carriers. Before going into technology, this could be one of those tabletop exercises has to be in every organization to see the gaps.
Interesting. What are the key components in pricing of a cyber insurance policy?
I think it's very important that customers, insureds, make every effort to make sure that their cybersecurity strategies within their business are up to snuff, so that when underwriters look at their business, they'll write the risk. And maybe Arjun, maybe you can kind of expand on that a little bit. You were an underwriter, were you not?
So, Arjun, from your side, how do you make sure the right kind of pricing policy is put into place?
See, as Mercy said, this industry is very nascent, not more than 20 years. And when you compare with other lines of business, which have got centuries of data on the frequency, severity of loss events, that kind of data is not available neither within the company that is going to be insured, nor at the industry level. Very, very scanty data is available. So this is one big gap. And sometime back, the US government took the initiative to pool together the loss data. Okay, so that kind of initiatives are being taken in several countries and by certain regulators, the banking regulator or the securities regulator. So that is one pillar. Okay, the second one is, how do you understand the like you do life insurance underwriting? You do a master health checkup of the person, and then understand the health status and try to estimate the morbidity and the mortality of the individual. The same way we need to take for cyber insurance. We need to study the whole organization to be insured, their cybersecurity, their assets, the threats, vulnerabilities. This you do through understanding the people, process, and technology. Now, when it comes to technology, it's very easy. Many of them have got SOC, and there's a lot of data from the SOC. So SOC, there is an overload of data. Very little data is available on the process part of it, on the GRC. Okay. Now, that is something, because all GRC audits are done by the Big Four in a very manual, judgmental, human evaluation. Now, how do you quantify that is a second big frontier to be crossed. And that's what we are working on. We are working on quantification of the GRC part of it. Through there's a wonderful technology called OSCAL. It's from NIST. OSCAL is Open Security Control Assessment Language. So through OSCAL, we are leveraging OSCAL to measure the GRC of any organization and bring much more scientific pricing into it.
There is another strategy that people could follow to deliver proper assessment information to a broker and to an underwriter. And Sree would know a lot about that because he actually built an online assessment form, which is intended to do that. And it's actually called a cyber fitness index, or lovingly referred to as a sci-fi, which it isn't science fiction, but that's what they refer to it as. Maybe Sree could kind of expand on it and how it works.
So, Mercy, from your side, what is it that you see are the key ingredients in the pricing of an insurance?
Arjun made the valid point. We have so little statistics that we can go by. And when you go to purchase the insurance, they're going to give you obviously an application, just like you would fill out for any policies. And they're looking to find out basically the same sort of things you use for a regular insurance policy. What exactly do you do? And what's your exposure? What are we looking at where you might be vulnerable to a cyber attack? How many people do you have? Are they remote or are they in the office? How do you control them? Are they being trained? Are they being trained to watch out for attacks? And a lot of this is on an application, and it's a warranted application. And I caution people about this, because when they ask you the information on the policies, basically you're putting up your hand and saying, I swear that I'm telling you the whole truth. And if you don't tell the whole truth, they can void the policy. So it gets real important that you can go back to somebody who is your security person and say, hey, help me with this. Help me fill this out. Help me explain to the insurance company what I'm doing to make me look as a better prospect. And I think that's very important, that they work well with their security people in order to do that. And I'm sure Sree has seen this a lot over the years, having to help the clients fill out those forms. And some of them are very simple and some of them can get awfully complicated, can't they, Sree?
Interesting. Sree, how can you help in the right kind of pricing of the cyber insurance policy?
There are certain controls that the organization can look forward. So definitely they have to take help from the technology standpoint in terms of being consistent and in terms of being up to the game. So certainly the insurance would be looking at, okay, what sort of controls do you have? So most of the underwriters will look into those couple of 10 points, I would say, something like as simple as multi-factor authentication. So this enables them to have a strong password controls. The next part is the network segmentation. So eventually what happens is today, everyone, like the guest or intermediaries or the leadership, will get into one single network. But network segregation will really help separation those of critical activities as well as the smaller segments in getting into the one particular server. So the third point is the very strong backup strategy. And one of those where, it may not be a backup strategy, what John was talking about. It is something like you can able to restore a data in the event of an ransom attack. The fourth one is the looking at disabling some of the administrative privileges on the endpoints. If I can recall in my earlier days, even the team leader or the associate can print or can go and download or go to the Google or to the Yahoo or Hotmail by using the internet that has been provided by the organization. So that is a no-no for us today. The fifth point would be definitely a training program for employees. This is where 15 to 20% of the attacks happens because of the lack of understanding of what's happening in today's world by the employees. The sixth point would be the endpoint detection and response, which is Yeah, something like John was talking about, a new shield which can able to prevent and detect as well as able to retrieve data in a click of a button.
Wonderful. So you have given a lot more perspectives about what are all the important areas one should look into.
See, in the insurance industry, you asked about pricing. Underwriters, we know their critical role, but above them you have the actuaries. Okay. So if you see the actuarial profession, it's very specialized. Lot of the actuaries are deeply experienced in life insurance. Of some time you have a specialization for property casualty actuaries. Even pension, there is a separate institute for focusing on pension actuaries. If you see in that perspective, cyber actuaries are very, very few in number. So we are all in uncharted territory. We don't know what data sets to work on, what models to apply. There's a constant discovery and learning happening around the world. So I just wanted to bring to your notice.
Interesting. Arjun, that's great. What are the preparations that a typical SME should do while preparing for cyber insurance?
Well, the security is the most important part. Having your security in line is going to be the very first thing the insurance company wants to see. They're not trying to make you spend a lot of money, but they want to see some basic things. And Sree mentioned some of them. They want to see multi-factor authentication, and they want to see training now of the employees. The employees really need to understand how phishing attacks work. And we've been promoting that a lot, along with the fact that we're human beings. We make mistakes. I send out 100 emails a day, and I know that there have been occasions when I've sent the wrong thing to the wrong person, and I've actually released data I shouldn't have released, okay? And I have to send an email and say, oh, please, just destroy that. You shouldn't have seen that. It happens every day, and we need to make people aware that that's a way that they can be violated. The other thing we're seeing a lot more of now, unfortunately, is insider attacks. With a lot of the economy situations and a lot of people being laid off, employees themselves are doing some attacking on their own systems. They get angry at their employers and they release passwords and such. And I've seen that lately too. And that's unfortunate, but that's something that's coming around a lot more now. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that, unfortunately, too. So those are some things that are going on right now.
You asked about the safeguards or what preparation is required. One small point I wanted to bring out. I find a lot of SMEs in India, particularly small credit union banks, they have bank assurance arrangements with many insurers, okay, and realize the need for cyber insurance, and they end up buying cyber insurance from their bank insurance partner. Now, this is something I would recommend them not to buy it directly. You should buy it always through a broker so that you get a competitive quote. And B, when you are dealing directly with an insurer, at the time of the claim, you are defenseless. Okay. So always have a broker intermediary on your side. Never buy direct. That's one small safeguard I wanted to make.
Interesting. Once you are attacked and once you have to file your claims, what are the kind of safeguards that as a customer or an SME that we need to undertake so that we know that we are in sync with what is required and we don't fall short of giving anything because of which our policy claims may be declined? Mercy, can you take a quick one shot on that?
First of all, you have to know what your policy is going to cover and what it isn't. So you're going to have to depend on the agent to have taught you what you're going to have coverage for and what you're not going to have coverage for. And then I personally, and Sree has said the same thing, you call the company to the breach department and you let them give you the steps to follow. I know a lot of people would like to step in and do it themselves and say, well, I can handle this. I wouldn't do that, because sometimes you destroy evidence that we're going to need in order to try and go after the bad guys. So you should always work with the insurance companies people and let them step in and help you so that they know what to destroy and what not to destroy and what kind of evidence to keep. And I think that's important, that you let them handle that for you rather than try and mitigate it yourself.
I completely agree with what Mercy said, that they should be guided by the insurance company and the claims assistance. We need to have an intermediary on your side to to present your case in the right way and follow up for the claims also. See, even large company CEOs admit that there is very poor understanding of cyber insurance. So this poor understanding comes at the time of buying an insurance also. So many times, like Mercy said, there'll be a mismatch between what the customer thought he bought and what he actually got. Okay, so all this will lead to, so if you do it right at the time of buying the insurance, you'll have less problems at the time of claims.
Interesting. Sree, from your perspective, what should be looked into very seriously?
Definitely, in today's world, where specifically from the SME standpoint, SMB, there's a cost involved for every activity to be performed. So again, to ensure that they are well protected and they get good service as well as the expert advice. Some of these SMBs will opt for what we call as a CISO, Chief Security Officer, who manages the entire security networks to ensure this smooth running of the business, and there is no issues in terms of if there is any attack happens. Basically, they get guided by these kind of experts.
What are the kind of key technology areas which help you reduce your premiums at the end of the day?
The first one would be the preliminary assessment to see what are the gaps in the network, and that will determine how do we take it up, the kind of a projects. And these projects will determine which are those on a priority basis and start working towards it. So the entire team will be focused on fixing those gaps. And meanwhile, even the employees get trained as well as the employees get awareness about what's happening in their organization. And the third part is from the business standpoint, we can always communicate to the client stating that how we are making the company more resilient and protecting the customer's data.
Interesting. Arjun, your perspective?
After the pandemic, the technology world, even from cybersecurity protection, has changed manifold times. Okay, and the good part is there are a lot of excellent technologies available, designed for the SME at very affordable prices. So these are all point solutions, plug and play. But many times the SMEs are not aware, or they are not given importance to that. So some of them, very plug and play technologies are. You need to go for a zero trust architecture. Now, post pandemic, the whole paradigm has changed. It has to be completely zero trust architecture. Okay. Second, you can have some malware scanners, then web application firewall, DDoS protection, and then John mentioned about anti-ransomware and data loss protection. So these are some 6 key technologies which every SME can afford and every SME needs to have.
Interesting. Are there insurance companies offering predictive insurance claim processing for cyber insurance? As many a times, organizations and the insurance company come together to know about cyber attack to the organization together at the same time. Similar to travel insurance, which are providing proactive claim on processing based on flight delays or luggage delays, etc.
Jitendra was referring to that analogy from travel insurance. That won't work here. No, that's more a parametric kind of insurance where that there is an impact or accident and it's affected so many defined passengers. So you can process the claims in a very straight through processing. So that doesn't work here. And even insurance companies are not, they attend to the claims in a very like a black box. Even the claims is a black box also. So let alone being a predictive system that will keep the customer in the loop. So that's my observation.
Great. What should be the preparedness for an SME, especially in the cyber insurance arena? How they should prepare themselves to take them to the next level where they don't end up spending too much, but at the same time, they also don't end up spending being penny wise pound foolish in this cyber insurance, because at the end, they may be staring at losses. Mercy, any thoughts from your side?
Important to have an agent that understands what cyber insurance is. There are plenty of insurance agents out there. They can sell you a policy, but a lot of them have absolutely no experience in the cyber end because it's such a new area. So you need to have a really good agent that understands cyber. You need to have good security people, good MSPs and security people that you can trust And unfortunately, I know in our country, they don't need to be licensed. Anybody can claim to be a security person. So you basically have to go to friends and other people to find somebody that you think you can trust. Those two are the most important things: a security company that can help you and lead you, and an agent that can help you with the policy and get you the right coverages. You don't need everything all the time. You don't need every coverage that's out there. You have to determine what you do need. And that'll help with the pricing too. So it's important that you get the proper professionals in both ends.
Wonderful. Any technology perspective, Sreenath?
We always, I mean, again, the SMB's mindset is we don't get attacked, but the data shows otherwise. 98% of the claims came through from the SME. So it could be the possibility like they're getting the data resided into a cloud, which might be less secure. They have to get that expert advice and get those sorted out.
Wonderful. Any remark from you, John?
Thank you. Just a question I have, if you don't mind. I listened to Arjun a few minutes ago, and he talked, and he said, you should be careful what you buy. Pay attention to what you buy. And then Mercy said, my goodness, there are a lot of agents out there that perhaps aren't as familiar with this new product that they should be. So my question is for Mercy. Mercy, can you play any kind of a role in helping the audience or anyone who would be interested in developing a proper coverages under their insurance policy?
There's some schools, there are some places you can go. I know John and I have done it, and I think Sree too, the Cyber Insurance Academy, that you can take courses to teach yourself basically online what coverages there are and what basic security is. And if you're a CEO or someone who owns your own company and you really want to make sure that you understand what's going on, you can take these courses. And they're wonderful courses. There's quite a few of them that are available. And I think it's important, if you're going to run a business, especially a business with a lot of computers involved, that you go ahead and try and educate yourself as much as you possibly can. And you don't need to be an agent to take those courses. So that's important that you know that's available.
What's important, if I might say, about the course at the CIA at the Cyber Insurance Academy in Israel, is that it's a combination of IT and policy construction. And just as Mercy said, in the last century, presidents of companies were expected to have some level of understanding of accounting. This century, the data century, they're expected to have some level of understanding of cybersecurity and risk. They should take that course.
The directors and officers of companies now are starting to be held responsible in situations where these companies are being violated, and if stock is going down, if I'm a large corporation and I get breached and there's a huge ransomware situation, my stock could start to fall. And if my stock starts falling, I'm going to get sued. So it's good to have a lot of basic knowledge from the board of directors endpoint of all of these companies too.
Interesting. Arjun, I would like to end this session with a concluding remark from your side. What is the road ahead for SMEs in cyber insurance?
See, all the top insurers in the world are focusing on what is called the protection gap. The protection gap is what the economic agents need to have, and what's the insurance that they actually purchased. Now, I'm afraid, the protection gap is one of the highest in cyber insurance, and that largely comes from this lack of awareness. So I completely agree with what Mercy, John told. We need to invest time, effort on education training also, even on the buyer side. Another point I would like to mention, since we are talking under the Indo-Canadian Chamber of Commerce, this is a great model. Industry associations could buy a group umbrella cover. It could be maybe mandatory for all of them, or could be optional, opt-in. Okay, but a group cyber insurance would be a great way forward to cover the SME. So it could be doctor associations or industry associations. That's one. And last one is cyber insurance is incredibly complex. I would quote, Churchill said that Russia is a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. Cyber insurance is no less. It is a financial solution to a technological problem deeply embedded in legal language using mathematical pricing. So even professionals can't understand it, let alone the, the average SME organization who's going to buy it. Okay. You have to crack all these problems to be on top of the situation.
Interesting perspective. One of the most interesting things I have seen in the insurance sector is, for example, the cyber insurance for that matter. I have read recent reports by EY, I think, where they were telling that the cyber insurance companies are still struggling to sell their policies. And of course, the prices are at the rooftop. Okay, especially after the pandemic, and still companies are struggling to sell their insurance policies. And the insurers, like the pharma companies, have always been focusing more on attacks to happen so that the insurance can be sold. And whereas many of those insurance companies in the life space have started focusing from illness to wellness. So instead of reaction, how can you be proactive and reduce the amount of attacks and promote that as well to reduce the the cost of insurance, which is anyways a loss for everyone. So I think a lot more awareness has to be created on how attacks and the impact of attacks could be reduced into the area of SMEs, so that this insurance business can also thrive together along with that in helping the organizations to prevent the attacks. That can also be an important area of insurance, where organizations can reduce the cost and better the value for everyone in the sector. Thank you very much, everyone, for this wonderful and insightful conversation. I would now like to request Bhavik to please come online and share a vote of thanks as a part of the association and the support that you have given. First of all, we would like to thank you and also invite you for the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much. All our guest speakers, great support from Financial Technology Frontiers, Babu Nair. So once again, thank you all, John, Mercy, Sreenath, Arjun. Thank you very, very much. I would also like to thank our sponsors from Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce, State Bank of India, Air Canada, ZTV, Seneca College, PTC Punjab, and Media TV, ICC Bank, Canada. Thank you very much for all your support. Babu, once again, thank you for your amazing initiative.
Thank you very much, everyone, for a wonderful conversation.